I'm here with Eamonn Fogarty from Brookland Computers, and we're here to talk about a subject which seems to be occupying a lot of people's thinking right now, and there don't seem to be too many answers. So Eamonn hopefully will help shed some light on the topic we're going to be talking about, which of course is GDPR. So Eamonn, what is GDPR?
GDPR is General Data Protection Regulations, if you'd like a mouthful, but it's new regulations coming in next May to replace the 1998 Data Protection Act. So as of next May, citizens gain a whole lot of rights and to protect their data that we as companies have to respect.
And is it going to present a big change for independent financial advisors?
It's going to present a challenge, but not necessarily a big challenge. Most financial advisors have gotten used to, over the last 20 years, regulation and compliance.
Yeah.
This is just another set of changes. It's not difficult to implement once you understand the principles and the philosophy behind it. And it's quite good. They want us to treat data like we treat money. If I give you my money, I expect you to look after it, tell me how much of it you've got, and give it back when I ask.
Seems like a reasonable analogy, but talking about money, obviously there's been a lot of figures bandied around about the cost of compliance. Is it expensive to implement?
Expensive is always relative from firm to firm, but I've heard numbers of people talking about many tens of thousands of pounds to get ready for GDPR for even the smallest businesses.
Yeah.
I don't think that's correct. That's way overstated. It's not that difficult to be compliant. Most IFAs are probably halfway there already.
Okay. So you say that it's not that difficult to be compliant. Of course, we've got a deadline, which is May 2018, and we've been hearing all sorts of alarmist stories in the press about 4% of turnover or 20 million euro fines if you don't comply. So, how difficult is it going to be for these firms to be fully compliant by May, and do they need to be fully compliant by May?
I think ideally they should be fully compliant by May. They certainly are looked at taking on board the majority of things they can within their business and understanding the principles and the core belief behind this legislation.
Yeah.
There is no reason why they cannot be. I think many firms have been very focused on MiFID II so far.
Yeah.
And its deadline in January, although as we know there is implementation phase beyond that because many of the providers are not fully ready yet.
Yeah.
But this is something that I think most firms can complete in less than 3 months without disrupting their existing business.
Okay, well that's interesting. So Brookland Computers, computing services, obviously you've been running this business, it's primarily been known historically as a hardware and software solutions provider. Would you say GDPR is a more software-driven service? Is that something that's going to drive change, the software that people use?
No. The right software will help you implement GDPR.
Yeah.
But GDPR is not about IT, it's not about software. It's about training your people and adjusting the culture in organisations. There has been a view up to now, if I've got hold of your data, it's mine. I can do with it as I wish. Yeah. I can sell it to other people, I can manipulate it, I can use it to market back to you. Yeah. In future, your data belongs to you as a data subject, and I can only do with it what I have your permission to do. And if you get that culture into an organisation, then the rest of the regulation is very easy to follow.
So what's your approach then? What differentiates your service? Because you've been doing this for how long now?
We've been doing GDPR now for 12 months with clients.
Right.
We have been helping clients meet the regulatory requirements in the industry for nearly 20 years.
Okay. But what differentiates your service from maybe going down to see the local lawyer or legal firm? I mean, aren't they better placed to provide guidance and advice to firms than perhaps what is known as a software company or an infrastructure provider? I mean, what makes your service different?
Yeah, it's good. It's a very, very good question. Our difference is we approach the business as a whole from one end to the other. There's plenty of technology providers offering you technical solutions, yeah, and lawyers offering you legal solutions. Yeah. We bring a team together that has technical, legal, managerial, consultancy experience. Yeah. And we look at your business from beginning to end, and we take a very pragmatic approach that fits the SME.
Okay, so you say you take a pragmatic approach. So briefly outline what your service looks like. So I'm a financial advisor, in fact I'm a software company. We also are impacted by GDPR, as is every business in the land. So What is your approach when going typically to see a financial advice business? How would you set the scene? How would you then oversee the implementation process for them?
Okay, we break it into 3 major steps to start with. The first is education.
Yeah.
We spend a couple of hours with the most senior level in your company, whether that's owners, directors or managers, depending on the nature of the business. First, they must understand what it's about. We then spend, usually it's a full day with your senior management team as a separate step. This is understanding what your business does today, because in many cases you're doing things that are perfectly compliant, you just haven't written them down and documented them.
Right.
So we go through that with you as a team, and then the third stage is we produce a report that's a gap analysis of where you stand today and what actions you need to take to be compliant. And that gives you a simple list of things you need to do between now and May. Some of them very simple, some of them a little bit more involved, but once it's in a list, it's very easy to implement.
So, as a piece of advice, finally, a piece of advice to our clients and our prospective clients, what would your advice be in terms of when they should start this process? Because of course it's Christmas coming up fairly shortly, and I'm sure everybody's winding down for that. I certainly am. What is your advice in terms of getting started?
The best time to start would have been August,
Oh.
but that's gone.
Of course it is. All right.
Start it now as soon as you can. Yes, you're right, Christmas is on top of people. It's probably going to be the very beginning of January. The key step is to understand the legislation, educate your people and work out your gap analysis. And from there you can plan what you need to do. And the ICO is looking for us to take on board the spirit and the principles here, as well as the detail. Which means that I cannot give you a guarantee I'm not from the ICO, but certainly what we're hearing in the industry is that firms who are taking it seriously and are doing their best to meet the legislation are not the ones that are going to face prosecution next year.
Okay, thank you. And just one last question. So the thing I've been hearing from your answers to my questions is that this is really more of a process. Would you say that? A sort of cultural change, but a process, a formula that you can implement? Would you say that's reasonable?
Yeah, I think it is. It's changing our attitude and changing the way we look at data and the way we treat it. And that is looking at your policies, your procedures, your employee handbooks, how you use your IT, who's got access to data, who they share it with.
Sounds like you've got it sussed, Eamonn. Thank you very much indeed for your help.
Thank you for having me here today, Roland.
It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you. That was Eamonn Fogarty from Brookland Computer Services. You'll find details of his company at the end of this video. Please do get in touch. I think Eamonn's last comment was absolutely relevant. Although it is a process, although there's work to be done, the sooner you start, the sooner you'll finish and the more comfortable you'll be as May approaches. Thanks a lot for listening.